Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals. And you can catch this Week 10 matchup on November 6th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that'll be on the NFL Network. The Cleveland Browns are coming in this game with a record of 5-3, and the Cincinnati Bengals are 5-2-1. The Browns started things off by going to Pittsburgh and losing, but then they went back to Cleveland and they beat the Saints. They then lost at home to the Ravens before having a bye week in Week 4. And then starting things off in the first week of October in Week 5 of the season, they went to Tennessee and picked up a win. And then they won their second game in a row by going back home and beating Pittsburgh in the rematch as they split the season series against the Steelers. They won that game by 3 touchdowns, a very impressive win for the Browns over Pittsburgh, especially when you consider what Pittsburgh's done the last couple of weeks. But then they went to Jacksonville and they lost to the Jaguars. The Jaguars picked up their first and only win so far this season. Although I do have the Jacksonville Jaguars beating the Cowboys this weekend in London. But in Week 8 and 9, the Browns won their last 2 games. They were at home against the Raiders and then the Buccaneers. And now they're going to Cincinnati to face their division in-state rivals, the Bengals. As this is a battle for first in the AFC North. The Cincinnati Bengals started off the season with 3 straight victories. They went to Baltimore and they won. And then they went home and they won against the Falcons and the Titans before having a bye week in Week 4. And then, though, in October was a rough month as they started out with a loss in New England. And then they played a tied game against the Panthers in Cincinnati. They then went to Indianapolis and were shut out by the Colts. But then they bounced back in Weeks 8 and 9 as they ended up beating their division rivals, the Ravens, in Week 8, as they ended up sweeping the Ravens on the season series. And then they ended up beating the Jacksonville Jaguars in Cincinnati in Week 9, and now they're hosting their division rivals, their in-state rivals, as it's Northern Ohio versus Southern Ohio, East-West. So the Northeast versus the Southwest of Ohio here in the Battle of Ohio, the Bengals and the Browns. The Bengals playing in Paul Brown Stadium. So this game is going to be a really great game to watch. It should be very entertaining. If you look at the injury report, you see Jordan Cameron is out for this game for the Browns. There's some other guys that are banged up. The Bengals got some players that are going to be out for this game too. Giovanni Bernard, he didn't practice all week. Vontaze Burfict, 2 of their best players right there. They've also got some other players like Maluga, Smith, Hall. They're all out. And some other players are banged up as well, up and down their roster. They are very talented. They got some very talented players that are hurt. Stenard, Gresham, Newman, Geathers. But the Bengals are at home. And that's why I'm going with Cincinnati. This is going to be a tight game. But in the last couple years, these two teams have split, winning at home every time they faced in the last 2 years. So in Cleveland, the Browns win, and in Cincinnati, the Bengals win. It's as simple as that, but it really, that's why we say home field advantage carries a heavy weight, because it's that 12th man. It's the fans in the stands. They do make a difference. We make a difference, people. So home field advantage in this game is what it's going to come down to. Let's look at the stats between these two teams in the season thus far. And when it comes to passing proficiency, the Browns are 14th in the NFL in passing yards per game. And the Bengals are 15th. So they're right there neck and neck. Passing defense, the Browns are 18th and the Bengals are 21st. So the advantage goes to Cleveland in the passing game. Then we look at the running game of these two teams. The Browns are 15th in yards on the ground per game, and the Bengals are 9th. Then we look at the run defenses of each team, and the Browns are 31st. The Bengals are 30th. So these two teams are abysmal at stopping the run, and the Bengals have the better running game. Even without Giovanni Bernard, we saw Jeremy Hill had that huge game last week. Expect to see him have another big game, and expect to see lots of yards on the ground. And expect to see these quarterbacks coming out the pocket to scramble around, especially Andy Dalton. You know, he likes to run, especially on them naked bootlegs down in the red zone. Wouldn't be surprised to see him score at least one touchdown. Maybe he goes for a quarterback sneak and gets 2 touchdowns. It could happen. Well, we shall see. And so the passing goes to the Bengals. Or the running goes to the Bengals, passing to the Browns. And we look at the points on the scoreboard. Points for and against. The Browns are 16th in points scored per game, and the Bengals are 13th. When it comes to defense, points allowed per game, the Browns are 8th, and the Bengals are 17th. So it's very evenly matched right there. You actually have to give the edge to the Browns. They're actually allowing a lot less points. And although the Bengals score more than the Browns, it's pretty close. Although the Bengals, when they get scoring, and I expect them to put up more points than the Browns in this game. It could end up being a high-scoring game. It could end up being a low-scoring game. I think the Bengals end up taking it by at least a touchdown. Of course, it could come down to the end, could come down to the wire. I wouldn't be surprised to see that, but I wouldn't be surprised to see the Bengals end up running away with it either, because once they get out to a big lead, which is possible there in Cincinnati, you know, they've got a lot of weapons on that team, even with their injuries. They start putting those points up, and the Browns are going to have to play catch-up. I just don't think the Browns can keep up with the Bengals through the air is the thing. Of course, if this is just a physical battle, then it'll be a closer game if they just stick to the run, and if they can keep it close and keep the Bengals to field goals, we'll see a closer game. But the Bengals, if they can get out to, you know, a quick lead, a quick start, and they just start firing through the air, if Andy Dalton can hit those targets and find the open man, and then they get those yards after the catch and get into the end zone, once the Bengals get a couple touchdowns early, they start running away with it. And, you know, the Browns will make it interesting, but, you know, the Bengals will win. Of course, like I said, if it goes the other way, if it ends up being a physical game, which it could be, and if it's just, you know, these two teams pound away, I mean, the run defenses for both of these teams is just really letting up lots of yards. They are both in the 30s. I mean, that's about as bad as it gets against the run. So expect to see big days from whoever it ends up being getting the, you know, ball in the Browns backfield. Is it going to be Ben Tate? Is it going to be Terrence West? Will it be Isaiah Crowell? It could be any one of the three. They've been struggling lately to run the ball. At one point, they looked like they were one of the better teams, even before Ben Tate came back. But then since he came back, he did have that 1 week where he did really good. And then what happened lately? Well, that's the kind of league it is these days. So we'll see what happens lately. And lately will be tonight, very shortly. Of course, the Bengals, we know what happened lately with them, Jeremy Hill. So if he has another big game, that right there shows the Bengals got the tools, regardless if it's a ground and pound or if it's an aerial assault. They can do it either which way. I said one opens up the other for them too, and then the play action. The Browns got a decent defense, but I said both teams' defenses against the run just, it's kind of not there. Of course, they do, you know, bend but don't break. That is the thing. So if it ends up being, you know, they hold them to some field goals, we could see a close game. Either way, I think the Bengals win this one. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Interested to read your thoughts and opinions. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want more content such as this, you can subscribe, because we bring you upon further reviews and recaps for each and every single game in the NFL all season long and through the playoffs. We do cover some other sports as well. We just got done covering the baseball playoffs. We do some college football too, and some other things like the quick picks and the fantasy fortunes, so check those out as well. Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend and enjoy all of the sports.